My name is Bleeps. I play D&D. Been having some fun with it, both running my own homebrew game as well as I've decided to start dabbling into modules. To that end, I played and ran, Tyranny of Dragons. You know, Horde of the Dragon Queen, Rise of Tiamat, those two mashed together. Yeah. This is going to be a quick, kind of unscripted thoughts video that I've decided I'm going to put together. Discussing a lot of fun little details. And so, there are a few ways to look at it, but before we even get to my experience running it, which is going to honestly be the bulk of this video, let's do a quick review in a few ways. First off, player resources. Or actually, no. Resources. Player resources being among them, but just basically, how much does the book help if things go off the rails? Or does it... When it comes to Tyranny of Dragons, the first thing I think of when it comes to resources is the council system. And sadly, it's not very supported. Well, while the book does provide a robust scoring system, it doesn't provide much for them to do once the council appoint their soldiers. Meaning, what effect they have is ultimately going to have to come down to DM and players and discussions there and in. No idea for running the battle, no point system, no how it affects the final confrontation, just straight up blue. I feel like it definitely does not provide enough maps. And more important than anything else, no real travel guidelines. That is to say, I'm not given a good idea of how long a trip should take or what should happen in that trip. Which leaves me as a DM kind of either having to just skip over travel, lampshade it, or improvise. Which is fine, but you know, a big part of modules, so the less you gotta improvise, the better. Still gonna have to improvise, obviously. Alright, any player resources? No, not really. There are no real player resources in Tyranny of Dragons. Which makes sense, honestly. So, let's talk about the adventure itself. It's fun, it's harmless, but a little too linear, especially early on. And honestly, it definitely felt to my players that there wasn't much choices to be made, though all of that could be on me. Now, the part of the show that I actually care about, how I'd run it differently from the book. So, look, you run it the first time, you run it pretty straight up, and then you get the sense, maybe I could have done things a little differently. So, I think maybe I'd do that. Okay, so, first off, let's talk about the changes I did make. I didn't do too much, but there were like a couple things I did. First off, let's talk about a magical sword called Hazaron. All the book tells you is that Hazaron is an evil sword. Something about being a general or something, maybe? And you know Hazaron's original owner. It does say Hazaron can speak. And that's about it. That's all I get. Oh, and also the stuff that it does as a magic item, but honestly, what the hell do you do with Hazaron? My players were, it was a magical sword on a particular tough fight that one of my players picked up and wanted to use. I had to do something with that. But what? There were a few options before me. Option A. Ignore it. But that option just sucked. Option B make attuning to Hazaron only possible if Hazaron likes you. In other words, if you align with his alignment. Again, I felt that was kind of boring. Option 3, play Hazaron off as a joke. Option 4, I don't remember if I was counting or numbering or lettering, whatever. Anyways, fourth option, option D, option 4, whatever we're calling it. Have Hazaron, give Hazaron a third, an agenda of his own. Something that he's trying to accomplish. Option 5, 3 and 4. That's right. That's the one I went with. Hazaron, I decided to have Hazaron trying to gather power from energy, and basically had him, through the ritual, if the ritual was failed, get the power from the failed remains of the ritual, therefore giving the party a bonus boss that they don't actually have to be, because Hazaron cannot contain the power of a god. That's what I did anyways. But I also played Hazaron early on as a bit of a joke, going with a Saturday cartoon morning villain thing, and my players enjoyed it, so it worked. But of course it might not work at your table, so caution be advised. The second thing I actively changed was the assassination attempts. So, in the book, there are 3 points where the Cult of the Dragon sends assassins after you. Okay. By you, I mean the party. Okay. So the Cult of the Dragon sends their assassins. We're assassins and we're gonna destroy you. Pew, pew, pew. But the fact is, I had 3 major problems with that. It was very much on the DM to place those into the game, which meant I had to guess where was a good spot to put them. The assassins kind of assume the party has been high profile enough in the way they've been dealing with the cult to, justify the cult sending assassins with them. The third problem is, if you were doing milestone leveling, which I was, levels were attached to that. Meaning, if you were skipping it, you were screwing the party out of levels. I was not happy with this. So, I kind of retooled it. So the first one was an assassination attempt. The second one and the third one, though, were attacks. Unrelated to the party whatsoever. If it being assassination attempts works, or you don't mind not doing them, go right ahead and skip them, or, use the assassination attempts. I just didn't like them. And those are the things I actually changed. So, what would I do differently if I were to run it again? That's the real question now, isn't it? And I've given it some thought. I have. Number 1, I drop the council. They don't add much, and I really did not enjoy playing them. My players did not have the investment yet in the locations and the societies of the Forgotten Realms to grapple onto these factions and be like, yeah, we care. So, and I was not comfortable in my knowledge that this book gave me to play them accurately. It's also just not a strong point to me. It's how much one of the big sticking points I came to, and my struggle in running the council and why I kind of dropped it flat, was how the hell do I describe what all the other people in the council were doing while the party was doing the seemingly important stuff that the book mentions? I think if the book talked about stuff other members of the council were doing that I could just throw in there, I'd feel better. But because they don't, and I have to come up with it myself, it's a struggle, and it just made it harder. I think if I were to use the faction system, which honestly, I really dislike the faction system they were pushing in early D&D 5e Adventures modules. I really do. But if I were to use it, I would have each faction approach the party separately on their own merits, in a way that both allows the party to pursue things at their own rate, and also makes it seem like separate interests, and maybe have those factions come together as a council based on the actions of the party towards the end, when they're gearing up for that final fight. Which, I think that final fight I would modify a little. I think I would have consequences to the battles swinging in one favor or the other, and if you have more people and more on your side, the battle will be more likely to swing to your direction. So I think that's one of the big differences. This would allow the adventure to be a little less linear, and also hopefully more enjoyable. More enjoyable and more one-on-one interactions with the party with these factions, instead of the party, big room, factions that I have to remember are there half the time. Next one, the Dragon Council and Thay. Both of these sections are, the Metallic Dragon Council and the Trip to Thay, are really cool concepts. Which is why it is tragic that they can ultimately take up half an hour each. Maybe, depending on how your party engages. The fact is, admittedly, you're teleported to Thay, so obviously not much happens there. And of course, the book doesn't give you much to happen there. And, well, nothing is mentioned that can really happen in the Metallic Dragon Council that's interesting. Sure, there are the meetings, there are these weird racist metallic dragons, it's the whole thing. But nothing that makes me go, oh cool, this is what should happen. It's more like, nah, this... okay, you guys did it, and I don't know how to approach it. I don't know how to clue into my players who would not naturally know the lore of the world, since we're all relatively new to the Forgotten Realms, without outright spelling out, this is why the dragon's pissed. I think more guides, more reasons, more clues to various things would be helpful. And as for the trip to Thay, just stay there longer. Thay is a cool place, and never get to leave the Sword Coast. It'd be cool to spend like an entire dungeon, or like have something happen there, maybe some random encounters. It is a shame that you really don't. At the end of the day, those are the major changes and my general thoughts on Tyranny of Dragons. I wanted to get this out of the way before I started running Princes of the Apocalypse, which I will make a video like this for as well. So if you enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe. If you want to see some TV commentary, do subscribe. I'll link in the description to my friend's channel where you might see a kind of, I guess, interview between him and me, and we discuss some things from his point of view in the Tyranny of Dragons module. But more importantly than any of that, you should take a long rest and have a good night.